My warm wishes to all the viewers. Today, I shall be discussing about Iran's war doctrine and how it's reshaping the Western Asian region. Uh, First of all, when we talk about formulation of a war doctrine, there are certain factors which go into play, and it would be prudent for me to discuss this before discussing the war doctrine of Iran. The first is the geostrategic environment, the borders, and the location of a country. And now, if you see, Iran is bounded by 7 countries, and none of the countries are hostile to Iran. So that would also go into the thought process of making a war doctrine. Uh, with the exception of Iraq, earlier, there was a war, but now relations are pretty good. So, what are the two major adversaries or two major enemies of Iran on which this war doctrine is going to be made? The first is Israel, and the next is the United States. So, Iran has structured its war doctrine to address its potential threats. The threat perception for Iran is today from Israel and the United States. Then this war doctrine also goes into play that what are your military capabilities and your limitations? What are the lessons from the past conflicts? And what are your political and ideological objectives? Because here in the case of Israel, you would notice there would be an ideological objective based on religion. And finally, the economic constraints which a country has. So, Iran's first and the foremost deduction in making its war doctrine is hybrid warfare and asymmetric warfare. Because Iran does not have a strong conventional army, and it knows it's not going to fight a battle on its borders because the enemy is 1600 kilometers away and does not share a common border. So, Iran resorted to a proxy war, asymmetric war, in which the Hezbollah was created in Lebanon, the Hamas was created in Gaza and West Bank, the Houthis were created in Yemen, and the Shia militia were in Syria and Iraq. So this doctrine was based on fighting a asymmetric war or a proxy war. The second was that in case Iran had to fight a war, its doctrine had to be based on a missile and a drone strategy. And since the last 10 years, Iran has been investing heavily in its missile capability. And if you see the arsenal of the missiles, today Iran has got more than 3,000 missiles, and most of its missiles have a range between 1,200 to 1,800 kilometers. So it clearly points out to the distance which these missiles are required to strike, which is around 1,500 to 1,600 kilometers. Shadab 3 is there, and Khoro Shahr is there, Imad is there, Khyber Shikan is there. So these are the kind of missiles which Iran possesses, and we have seen in this war. The third important part of the strategy is the maritime choke point warfare. Iran has a plethora of small, fast speed boats, and the Strait of Malacca, the Caspian Sea, the Gulf of Oman, and the Persian Gulf are the areas which Iran would like to dominate through this fast speed boats and its mine warfare or its sea mine warfare capability. The next aspect of this doctrine is strategic autonomy and deterrence. We have seen that in the last about 15 years, Iran has a defense industry of its own, a drone manufacturing capability, missile manufacturing capability, and a development of a nuclear ambiguity. It is keeping the world guessing on its capability to make a nuclear bomb. And today, Iran possesses that capability, and it is a deterrence which is part of its doctrine. In the world, we are seeing today shifting regional alliances, and Iran is not affected by that. Therefore, in times to come, you will see the Russia and the China nexus gaining hold, and Iran being part of this nexus. Because this polarization of the world will also result in reshaping the doctrine of Iran or the war doctrine of Iran or the reshaping of the war doctrine of Iran in times to come. And we will see Iran getting into strong alliances, which it does not so far does with Russia and China to counterweight the influence of the United States in this region. This is the way Iran has reshaped its doctrine, and therefore it endeavors itself to be a leader of the Muslim nations in this region. Jen.